Well, good morning. Welcome to our morning meditations. I'm Reverend Dr. William L. Johnson III, a chaplain here at Christian Hospital Northeast, and I am so glad to be able to share with you once more. Here we are approaching the end of the year. We are in the month of December, and we are fastly approaching, God willing, to see a new year, 2022. And as we do so, we are reminded that what has been consistent all along throughout the year still is really important for all of us. And so I want to say to all of you who share with us, either in the hospital or for those who are picking us up on YouTube in different platforms. Thank you so much for your support and for being with us. And remember, we await and look forward to your feedback from our messages and what we have to share. It is important to us that you receive these messages as messages of inspiration and encouragement. We are aware that life is not always easy, and we are often faced with many challenges along the way. And as we go together. And it's good to be able to know that we're not alone, we're not isolated, we're not by ourselves, but we are a part of a family, the human family, as we journey one with the other in love. And so I want you to know that you are loved, you are appreciated, and you are irreplaceable. I'll say it again, you're loved, you're appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. As we share today, as we approach this season, holiday season, so many faith traditions, so many thoughts, so many memorable moments to be cataloged. For many, this is a moment in which they face a lot of anxiety, a lot of feelings of being overwhelmed by all that the season brings. We want to encourage you as well. It's going to be all right. We're going to be okay. Take it slow. Enjoy the moments that you have. Don't try to look too far ahead and don't look too far behind. Just remember it's important to be who you are, where you are, and enjoy the life that you're given. This is the one life we're given. We ought to live it as if we appreciate it, cherish it, and cherish those that we share the journey with. Well, this morning's meditation is entitled The Choice is Yours. The choice is yours. I thought about this message because I'm aware that often in our lives we are faced with all sorts of challenges trying to move us in and out of who we ought to be. And so I jotted some notes down I wanted to share with you, and I think it's important because at some point in our journey, every one of us in this life has some moments that we're living a life that's different from who we really are. We're all faced with all kinds of challenges. We learn how to live in this, kind of bifurcated existence where we present ourselves to be one thing and we act another way, but what's really inside never gets a chance to come out. We learn that early. From our earliest moments in life. When we first go to school, we learn to think how others think and to do what others tell us to do and to behave in ways that are acceptable to other people. And all of that is fine. We do want to get along with one another, and we do want to be good citizens in the world in which we're in. However, none of that should take away from our ability to live our lives and be ourselves. And so we want to encourage ourselves to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and to be able to say that we love who we see because we've lived out who we really are, because it was our choice to do so, that we chose to be able to live and laugh and be ourselves and to have our own thoughts and to be able to move in the world. Yes, we have to be citizens in a world that puts us together with one another. We can't often go off on our own, isolated in a community. But however, that doesn't mean that we don't have to have the ability to know and embrace our own lives as they are. These things, I wanted to share this with you because one of my favorite authors, his name is Parker Palmer, more than an author, but Parker wrote a book entitled Let Your Life Speak. And in that book, he reminds us that who we are and what we do ought not be sleeping in separate rooms. That who we are ought to be, and what we do should be married in some way. We should be connected to how we we talk and how we live, or else we'll feel as if we're living fraudulently in the world as someone else, some imposter, and not actually living out our own calling and our own life. There's a biblical story about this, and many of you are aware of this story. It is the story of David as he encounters Goliath. This story is one of my favorites. I have a lot of favorite biblical stories, but this is one of my favorites because it's not just about him dealing with Goliath, as we learn in our children's stories for those of us who come from that faith tradition and background, but it's about what happens to David. David is a young man who's a shepherd boy in his father's home. He has older brothers, 7 older brothers, in fact, and there comes a time when Samuel, as I may have told the story before, sees that God wants to choose a new king, and so he goes to visit Jesse, David's father, and when he goes, he wants to see his son. He's led there. He believes that the new king will come from Jesse's household, and he looks at all 7 of David's older brothers. None of them fit the description of what God wanted for leadership to be the next king. However, David, almost exasperated and worn out, asked of Jesse, "Is this all that you have? You don't have another son?" And Jesse suddenly remembers he has a son, David, who's out tending the flock in the fields. So they called for David, and sure enough, as Samuel sees young David, he knows he's the right one and he's the king. I wish that were all the story. That's the preamble to the story. The issue is that David does not become king right away, but he ends up still doing what he does. He's still a shepherd boy until his father sends him out to see about his brothers who are in the army and ready to go to battle against the enemy, the Philistines, with great big old Goliath, threatening all that the king and all that Israel had known. And there you have young David asking a question: what shall be given to the person who kills this giant? As if he has confidence. I love this story because you can have confidence when you know already that you've been chosen for something special. And for each one of us, it's important to know that we've been chosen for something special. But it's also important to know that we ought not live as imposters in our lives, being someone else other than we ought to be and other than who we are, in order to do and the special things that we've been sent here to do. I would say more about that if I were in church. I'd say if I had time for that, I'll say it again. It's important to note that David prepares to go out and fight this giant, and before he goes out, Saul decides to put his armor on this young boy as he goes to fight. And David tries it on. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit him. It is not his life. It doesn't belong to him. And David feels overwhelmed by this clankiness of the armor and the heaviness of the weapon. And he decides he's going to take off what is not him and simply go out into the field to fight Goliath with only a slingshot and a few stones. Well, he says, I can't try these. I can't do these things. I haven't proven them. This is not my life, Saul. This is not my life to try to do things that other people want me to do. But what I've been trained to do is to kill this giant because I know myself. I know who I am. And he does. There are some giants in your life. There's some obstacles, some challenges that you'll face. There's some difficulties as we approach this new year, as we leave the old, that we are not prepared for unless we're living fully in ourselves with God's touch on our lives, God's holy kiss upon our lives as who we are. There's no way to live an imposter's life. And so the choice is yours and the choice is mine to choose how we want to live our lives. Live our lives as ourselves, not with expectations that others around us, not expectations that our parents may have had, and we're trying to live that out. They may be long gone now, but we still are trying to live the lives that we thought they wanted us to live, or in some other way, living an opposite life, a life that is so far afield from what others would have wanted that is still not what we ought to be living and who we are. It is important for you to be you. There's nobody like you, and there will never, ever be another soul like you. And it's important for me to share that because I think if you're here thinking and moving in your life, feeling inadequate, feeling empty, feeling anxiety because you're trying to live in someone else's shoes, in someone else's uh, ideas, someone else's dreams, and not the ones that God has given you. I'm giving you permission to make a choice. Choose you. In fact, I'm inviting you to give yourself the best present that you could ever give during this holiday season. Give yourself the gift of you, the authentic, real you. And you'll discover there's some things you need to work on. There's some things that are not perfect. There's some things that surely you need to kind of shape up and get together, but it's still you. And there's no better present than a person can have than the gift of yourself that only God could give you. I'm convinced you'll never know you. I'll never know me until I come into the presence of the one who created me. And the one who created me knows exactly why I'm here. And sometimes in our lives, we're searching for knowing exactly why we're here. I often have shared this before, but I often think of God sending us to this world, and we come into this world like a jigsaw puzzle. I used to love jigsaw puzzles when I was a kid. My patience is not as great right now, but I think I ought to try it again. I think it's important to do. As a matter of fact, there's a fascination I have for it now to kind of get back to those. But you know, jigsaw puzzles are weird. You have a picture on the outside of the box of what ought to be on the inside. But when you open the box, all the pieces are scrambled and kind of moved around. They're not in place. They're not there solidly. And so you have to start putting together the pieces of your life. The best way to get that is to check and reference what's on the outside of the box from the one who designed the puzzle. Your life is the one that God gives. It's the best thing you got going. And whether you like it or not, failures included, we all stumble, we all have difficulties, but that is the making of the life and the purpose for why we're here. Don't curse it. Don't think your life is worse than someone else's or someone else's life is better than yours. It's the one life you're given. As J. Cole says, there is no such thing as a life that's better than yours. You're great. You're loved, you're appreciated, and you're irreplaceable. And we're grateful for your presence in the world. Why don't you choose to live that life out? It's the best thing going. Thank you. Give us your feedback. Thank you for the time. Thank you for sharing with us in these messages. And I hope that they do what they're designed to do to encourage and inspire you along the way throughout this week. Have a great one.